What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first Doctor William Hartnell story, The War Machines. This is a pretty interesting story for the first Doctor. I believe it's the second to last story available on DVD at the moment. There is one story in between this and the 10th Planet, but that isn't available on DVD yet, so this is the second to last that you can actually have on DVD and watch. It is available in full, so no animation or anything, which is always good. It's 4 parts long. It's the introduction to Ben and Polly as companions, and it's also the farewell to Dodo as a companion as well. So let's get on with this one straight away. This is The War Machines by Ian Stewart Black. The TARDIS arrives in London 1966, where the Doctor and Dodo visit the recently opened Post Office Tower. At its top, they discover a brilliant new problem-solving supercomputer, the Will Operating Thought Analog. But when Wotan decides that it should rule the world, the Doctor is the only person who can stop its rampaging war machines from destroying London. Luckily, he has the help of a young secretary called Polly and a sailor called Ben. So that's the back of the DVD there. Pretty brief stuff there, not a whole lot to go off, but yeah, some interesting stuff nonetheless. Basically, you've got robots. It's robots taking over the world, something that I suppose is quite overused nowadays, but you know, back then, I guess hopefully it was not as much of a thing, but I mean, now it's kind of a bit of a, you know, we see that all the time, you know, AI and robots taking over, but yeah, I believe this was at least the first time it was done in Doctor Who, from what I know, and it's just, it's still an interesting concept. But anyway, let's get started with the cast. William Hartnell as the first Doctor. I actually do quite like William Hartnell in this one. His Doctor's one that I like in a lot of ways, and I don't like in a lot of ways. On the most part, I do quite like him though. And yeah, but in this one especially, I really did enjoy the first Doctor in this one. I thought William Hartnell did a great job. Yes, there was a few little line mixes up here and there from him, but you kind of always get that, and it's not just him. There are other characters in the story where you get that. It was just kind of more of a thing where they didn't really have the time that they do nowadays to perfect things, so they just kind of one shot, maybe two if they're lucky, and you know, that's what they got. But yeah, altogether I do quite like his character in this one. He's a bit more spritey, he's a bit more kind of energetic, and I do quite like that. I thought he was, you know, it was an interesting take on his Doctor, and of course, like I said before, this was one of his last stories, so yeah, it was fun. It was a good performance. I just enjoyed it altogether. Jackie Lane as Dodo Chaplet. This is the first time I've ever seen Dodo in a story. My first kind of, you know, time seeing Dodo. I think she's actually only got like 3 stories that are available on DVD. This, The Ark, and The Gunfighters, I believe. I think that's all she has. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure that's the case. And well, to be honest, this is her leaving story, her farewell story, and she doesn't really do a whole lot. She kind of just does some stuff at the beginning of in part 1. In episode 1 she's in it a decent amount, and then after that she kind of, you know, after she gets taken over by Wotan and kind of hypnotized, the Doctor finds her again, cures her, but she's, I don't know, she sleeps for 48 hours or something, and then we literally don't see her again. She just leaves. She leaves at the end. Polly just says, oh yeah, at the end of the story she just says Dodo's decided that she's going to stay here with some friends or whatever. We don't actually see her leave, she just leaves. So I don't know what the hell that was all about, but yeah, I'm going to be honest, Dodo, from what I saw of her in this story, I mean, she's nothing special, I will be honest, and to be honest, that's what I've heard the general consensus is. Annette Wills as Polly, very, very good. I've seen Polly quite a few times, well, only a couple of times actually. I think I've only seen her in the 10th Planet and the Moon Base so far, I'm fairly sure. But yeah, Annette Wills, really, really good. She's a very good actress, and you know, she has some very funny, witty moments with Ben at the start. And I just, you know, all through the whole thing, she plays the hypnotizing very well, and just altogether, I really do like her character, and I enjoy her on screen. And then Michael Craze as Ben Jackson, same goes for him. He's just really good. I think he's just an interesting character. I like his dynamic with Polly, and yeah, just all together, you know, Dodo may have been a big letdown, but at least we have the introduction of 2, from what I can tell, very good companions. Alright, so on to the good and the bad, starting with the good. Introduction to Ben and Polly, I just went over this, but yep, this is their first story, and I think it's an interesting way to introduce them, I do agree. A little bit kind of meh about the fact that they just walk into the TARDIS. I mean, I guess at this time it's a little bit, this may have been the first time this ever happened, but in the future at least, we've seen this a lot. I mean, Tegan just wandered into the TARDIS. I think we've had a couple in the new series as well that they've just kind of walked in. But yeah, it's a bit overused in the new series, or Adric as well, he just kind of walked in, and there's probably more. But yeah, I mean, it's the first time that this happens, I think, so I can let it off for that, but it is, you know, it does grate on me a little bit, but still. The first instance in Doctor Who of robots/AI taking over humans, mentioned this before as well. I think this is the first time they did this. I do know this is kind of the first. This is known as the first alien invasion story, or the first Earth invasion story. Which you're probably thinking that's Dalek invasion of Earth, but if you remember, in Dalek Invasion of Earth, the Daleks have already taken over by the time the Doctor gets there, so it's already been invaded, whereas this, I believe, once again, quote me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the first actual, you know, invasion happening as we're going. I believe. Like I said, might not be the case, but I think that's the case. The Doctor hypnotizing Dodo to sleep. I thought that was pretty interesting, you know, how he uses his ring. He's like, look at my ring, 1, 2, counts to 5, and she falls asleep. I thought that was pretty cool. If any Doctor was, you know, doing hypnotizing and stuff like that, I think the first Doctor works very well. I think he's probably the one that would do it. I believe the third Doctor actually hypnotized someone at one point as well with something. I'm not sure if it was actually with that, what was it, the crystal? That crystal thing from the Green Death, was it? Or was it from Planet Spiders? I can't remember. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting scene, you know, added a bit more to his character, just, you know, some interesting stuff there. Talking about the third Doctor, actually, this feels a lot like a third Doctor story with the military and just the general feel of it. All the way through this story, I was thinking this is a much more action-packed, fast-paced story than a lot of first Doctor stories, at least from what I've seen. A lot of his older stuff, especially his first stuff, for the first Doctor is fairly slow pacing. It's a bit slow going. Of course, you know, being, you know, William Hartnell being an older man, you can't really have that running around pace stuff, at least with him. But this story, I felt like, kept up the pace really well, and it just felt to me like a third Doctor story. And then once the military came into it, it felt even more like a third Doctor story, because it felt like UNIT was there, even though they weren't. It was just the military. It's just, this story had such a good pace to it. This is a really well-paced story. A lot of issues with Classic Who I have is that a lot of the classic stories are slow. They're not very well paced. I think this story is pretty much perfectly paced. I mean, the first couple of episodes are slower than the last two. I think I do prefer the last two episodes because they are a bit more action-packed and interesting. But even then, the pacing at the start is still, with what they're building up with, it's just very good. Altogether, really good pacing. And yeah, like I said, it feels a bit like a third Doctor story. One war machine killing all those military men shows how powerful they are. I love it when they do stuff like this in any sci-fi, but really in Doctor Who. They did it, you know, with the Daleks, with the Dalek in Dalek 2005 with Chris Eccleston. Just showing one thing killing so many people, causing so much destruction. It really gets in your head how dangerous these things are, and it does that very well here. There's a scene, the first scene we properly see with the war machine killing people. It's one of the first scenes we see with them in general, and it absolutely destroys all the military men in that warehouse. It's just such a good scene. I also love the direction. I think the direction, I didn't actually write this down, but the direction in this one as well, it looks really good. There's some really awesome cinematic, but also like some close-up shots of the war machines and just of the characters and stuff. It's a very well shot and directed episode. But yeah, that scene was really good. And then finally, the Doctor trapping one of the machines and using it against Wotan. I thought that was cool. Once again, maybe a little bit of a cliche nowadays, but, you know, using their own technology against them, I do always quite like that sort of thing. When he traps it, and he doesn't necessarily, I don't think, say how he trapped it, but he does somehow, he neutralizes it and then manages to rework it so that it goes and attacks everyone to kill them all off, to basically kill Wotan off. I thought that was a fairly interesting little thing. Alright, so on to the bad. There is a couple of bad things I do want to talk about. They're all fairly nitpicky, but they are things I do want to say. First of all, probably the most nitpicky of them all, Wotan's voice is a little bit annoying, with it talking like one syllable at a time. So he talks really slow, one syllable at a time, even words that are broken up into like, you know, they're like 4-syllable words, 5-syllable words. He says them one syllable at a time. It's just, it kind of feels like it's prolonging a bit. I mean, I said the pacing was good, but there are those slight moments with Wotan talking where the pacing does drop down a bit, but luckily there isn't actually that much of that, so I can let it off a little bit. Also, I mentioned this before, Dodo just leaves after not appearing for 3 episodes, literally just leaves after we see her go to sleep. She's not seen again, and then she's literally just mentioned saying, oh yep, she's staying here now. There you go. So that's a bit disappointing. And then also the ending, I do quite like the ending. You know, with the Doctor making one of the war machines go and kill off all the rest and finish them off. A little bit menacing, but I mean, to be honest, it's a computer, so I can totally let that go. It's not actually a person. I think a couple of people do die, though, so that's a bit, you know, yeah. But I do feel like it's a bit quick. It just kind of ends, you know, it just kind of goes in there. It's not like a nice, long, prolonged scene, which works when the war machine's killing all those people, you know, when we first see it kill people. It's a bit too quick. It's just kind of like, oh, killed a few people and we've won. So I do feel like that was a little bit quick, but I still didn't mind too much. Alright, so the war machines, what am I going to give it out of 10? I'm going to give it, and this may be a little bit, from what I've seen, a little bit higher than a lot of people regard it. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I honestly really enjoyed this story. I think it's actually my favourite William Hartnell story now, just giving it the same rating as I did for the 10th Planet, but I think I would just slightly edge this one above. I was going to give this a 10 out of 10, but because of those few little things I had with it, I thought, nah, I'm not going to give it a 10. I'm going to be too generous if I do that. I'll give it a 9.5 though, because I really enjoyed it. I could easily just go and watch this one again right now. It was really fun to watch. I wasn't bored, and it was just a really exciting story. So yeah, a 9.5 out of 10 for the War Machines. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Go down in the description and follow me on Twitter. That would be so great. And I'll see you guys in the next video.